You know, I once heard the saying, actually, I've heard it more than once, many times, that no matter how bad um, what you think the government is doing, it's much, much worse than that. Caitlin Johnstone. Nothing in any conspiracy theory is as bad as what's being done out in the open. So by now, most of you know about the Saudi murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi. And I believe he was with Wall Street Journal, or maybe the New York Times, I don't remember, but he was with an American outlet and living here in the United States. And I don't know if it's a miss or what, but Johnstone here says that the statement reads like a long-form version of one of Trump's tweets, replete with gratuitous explanation points and slogans like America First. There's another one of them, simple slogans that I've talked about many, many times. For some reason, they are the most effective form of, I guess for lack of a better word, brainwashing, or maybe, yeah, brainwashing. Gustave Le Bon calls this a contagion, and it is. You notice how the people on the right, when Barack Obama was in office, you know, they were fucking watching like hawks everything Obama did, and rightfully so. But after they got someone they thought was one of their own in, they kind of went back to sleep, right? And it's because slogans, America First, Make America Great Again. And the same thing happened, of course, with the leftists there during the Obama administration, right? What was his? Yes, we can, so on and so forth. And, of course, the lie that Iran is the world's leading sponsor of terror, which is not true, and it can never be true, because I do believe Israel holds that title, if you want to be technical. No matter how many times this administration deliberately repeats that, Iran will never be the world's leading sponsor of terror. The world's leading sponsor of terrorism is, of course, they say, Saudi Arabia, Israel, and the United States, and I agree with that 100%. We are the three countries that exports terror all over the planet. Now, you wonder why our gas prices suddenly went down, right? It wasn't just the market that made this happen. It was a deal between Donald Trump and Saudi Arabia. You know, we're not going to go after you for this murder if you do X, Y, or Z. Trump's alleged opposition has responded with melodramatic outrage, as though a U.S. president continuing to stand by Saudi Arabia in the face of horrific acts of violence is somehow new and unprecedented and not standard operating procedure for decades. And it has been. They stand by the most brutal ruthless dictators a country can have. In fact, they don't just stand by them, they fucking sponsor them. They send these motherfuckers all kinds of money. Meanwhile, those motherfuckers are butchering their own citizens. Dismembering a journalist while he's still alive would be a fairly typical Tuesday afternoon for the Saudi government, and would not rank anywhere near the top 10 most evil things this government has done. But because it involves America and a conspiracy, it's a sexy story that everyone laughs up. Add in the fact that Trump is more blunt and forthcoming about American depravity, and you've got yourself a yarn. Ted Lieu, I don't even know who the fuck that guy is, but he tweeted out, "You are the President of the United States of America. You should not grovel to Saudi Arabia. Your statement is weak despite the random explanation points. A strong POTUS would not excuse the Saudis for murdering a journalist and cutting him into pieces." Senator Bob Corker says, I thought I'd never see the day the White House would moonlight as a public relations firm for the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. Oh, man. And I'm a criminal somehow. Somehow I'm the criminal. I've had a lot of people call me this on my channels, that I'm some fucking criminal because I think differently than they do. This has remained a hot story through to today, invigorated by a tweet by America's WWE president in which he crowed about low gas prices and added, "Thank you to Saudi Arabia," like a good little puppet, or muppet as she called him. And that's why I mentioned the suddenly lower gas prices. It's because Donald Trump blackmailed the Saudis into doing this. And amid all the fist shaking and rending of garments about the killing of one man by the Saudi government, a far less magnetic story has been published saying that about 84,701 Yemeni children under the age of 5 were starved to death between April 2015 and October 2018. They were starved to death. And that starvation is the direct result of a blockade and relentless violence by Saudi Arabia, the United States, and others. The lack of any sense of proportion in response to the Khashoggi case compared to the destruction of civilian lives in Yemen has been roundly criticized by anyone with a public platform and open eyes. I mean, what happened to Donald Trump's outrage when it comes to Yemen, anyway? I mean, no, these are just children under the age of 5. she goes on to say that this is not unique to Saudi human rights violations. Take the ongoing Russiagate conspiracy theory, for example. Even if Mueller's investigation did somehow prove that Trump colluded with the Russian government to steal the 2016 election, and it won't, that act would still have far less horrible than the ongoing Cold War escalations that this administration has been continually advancing against a nuclear superpower. I mean, that is such fucking bullshit. Why don't you guys keep your wars to the soldiers and the government? She goes on to say that she often gets conspiracy buffs asking or telling me to write about this or that theory of 9/11 or the JFK assassination or whatever. And I'm like, dude, have you seen the stuff they're doing in broad daylight? And by the way, if the things they are doing in broad daylight are this terrible, and they are, just think of how bad they are after the sun goes down. When people can't see what they're doing as well. Cameras don't capture as well. She says it's not that she has any attachment to any of the official narratives the TV tells me I'm required to believe. I just find I can get more, or a lot more, traction with much better arguments pointing out the facts that are publicly known and undisputed, especially because those things are often far worse than anything alleged in any conspiracy theory. Yeah, like murdering 85,000 children. That's a lot worse than 9/11. A lot worse. She says 9/11 was pretty bad, right? 2,996 dead human beings. If that were engineered or permitted to happen by any faction of the U.S. government or any of its allies, and it was, that would be pretty diabolical. But would it be worse than 1 million Iraqis killed in a war based on lies? No. Even if you only care about American lives, just the number of government agencies and DC insiders justified and sold to the public with government lies, lies which were advanced as objective and unquestionable fact by the mass media. The war was rammed through without any public accountability. A million human lives were snuffed out. And when they were done, nobody was tried for war crimes. Nobody was even fired. No charges were ever made to prevent such horrors from being inflicted upon our world again. Oh no. And she's right. on paper, it is much worse than 9/11. Much worse. You remember Colin Powell and all them fucking lying sacks of shit giving testimony that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction. Then a year or so later, you had dickhead George W. Bush, I believe, cracking jokes about it, and people were actually laughing about all those people who died for no fucking reason at all. So, you know, whenever somebody calls you a conspiracy theorist, bring up things that are well known. And that will shut their mouths, undoubtedly. Anyway, I thought I would share this article with you. It is rather grim, but true nonetheless. And we're guilty as a collective of some pretty awful shit. Remember, a lot of this stuff is done in our name, by our consent. Kill the state before the state kills you.